Sales of electric vehicles in China, made by Chinese companies, and sales of Tesla's vehicles are skyrocketing over the last few months. And apparently the chip shortage is no longer an issue for Chinese car makers, and certainly it's no longer an issue for Chinese electric car makers, but Volkswagen, on the other hand, is completely stopping electric car production for 2 weeks. What gives? Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electric Viking. To all the new subscribers that have come on board recently, fantastic to have you. Make sure you check out some of the 570 videos we've created over the last 6 months. That's correct. A lot of content there that is not available anywhere else on YouTube. Make sure you check out some of those videos. You can probably spend days watching content on the channel. Now, thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, and commented on the videos. Now, that's partly what I love about doing this, is seeing what you think. Now, I get a lot of emails and comments across various different places, and I actually have learned a lot of things, a lot of information from many of you who, I have to say, I think a lot of you are much smarter than I am in a lot of different areas. Engineers, software engineers, mechanical engineers, battery engineers, there's all kinds of IT specialists. There's some really smart minds here on the channel. So make sure you jump down to the comment section and check out some of the comments below. There's some people who really know what's going on in China, who really know what's going on in the electric car world. And this is not me bullshitting to you. It's actually very true. In fact, a lot of the ideas I get for videos on this channel actually come from subscribers. So Volkswagen has halted electric vehicle production for 2 weeks at 2 German factories over supply chain issues. This is going to affect EV supply for several of the German automakers' brands. Supply chain issues, and especially the chip shortage, have had huge impacts on the auto industry if you're not an electric car manufacturer. Now, I know, Tesla have said they've had some issues with chips, but really, I mean, how big are their issues truly, considering their sales have dramatically increased this year versus last year? Whereas for legacy automakers who make ICE vehicles, their sales have declined pretty significantly. In fact, in many cases, they've fallen off a cliff within the last, say, 4 to 5 months. On the other hand, China's electric car makers their sales are exploding. Many of them are up 200 to 500% over the last 3 to 4 months. So what gives? Why is it that electric car manufacturers in China can make, in some cases, 5 to 10 times more vehicles than they were last year, but Volkswagen has to completely stop production for 2 weeks, and Toyota was doing the same thing? But the strange thing is, while it appears as though electric car manufacturers in many cases are not really affected by the supply chain shortage for chips, for some reason, Volkswagen is. Now, obviously, Herbert Diess is pushing the company extremely hard to move into an electric car future, but unfortunately, Volkswagen just said they can't commit to making all EVs by 2040. Does that sound like a company to you that's planning for long-term success? Well, obviously Herbert wants them to make only EVs, but the company doesn't want to do that. So they're trying to push Herbert out, trying to fire him. One of the most popular videos that I've made within the last week was the video where I talked about who is trying to fire him and how Volkswagen are trying to get rid of him. And he's one of the greatest leaders in the world. I'm sure Tesla would take him in a single heartbeat. In fact, many companies would. But Germany's Automobilwasch, don't know how to pronounce that, sorry, but anyway, reports that the automaker was able to prioritize chip supply to electric vehicles. So far, Volkswagen's e-car production has come through the chip crisis rather lightly, while the production lines at the Golf and Tiguan regularly come to a standstill completely in Wolfsburg. Volkswagen's e-cars were preferably supplied with semiconductors. The production of electric cars in Zwickau and Dresden therefore continued without major interruptions. But it looks like the company can't protect its EV production anymore from the chip shortage, unfortunately. Now, the publication reported that it is shutting down electric vehicle production at its 2 main German factories for a week. They said the chip crisis is now also affecting e-car production at Volkswagen. Production will be suspended in Zwickau and Dresden this week. Sounds like 2 weeks. Audi and Cupra models are also affected. 5,000 vehicles will be eliminated as a result. At least 5,000, could be 10,000, could be more. Who knows when this will stop? So, Volkswagen, what gives? What are you guys doing? Why is this happening to you? Why are the other electric car manufacturers succeeding? Aura's sales are going up. BYDs are going up. Xpengs are going up. Neos are going up. I mean, there's huge numbers of EV companies in China who are virtually unknown, and their EV sales are exploding, going through the roof. Somehow they're able to get the chips that they need, but Volkswagen, the world's first or second largest car manufacturer, depending on how you perceive them, is not. And this we call a plant, which unfortunately is extremely inefficient in comparison to Tesla's new plant in Germany. Apparently it takes 30 hours to build an EV there and only 10 hours at Tesla's plant. Volkswagen produces the Volkswagen ID3 there, the ID4, and the Audi Q4 e-tron and Cupra Born. So, if you're ordering one of those vehicles, well, you might have to wait a bit longer because production will stop. And obviously it's going to put a couple of weeks of additional wait time for those cars. Now, obviously, Volkswagen, the good news is they've managed to significantly increase their electric car manufacturing this year. And in fact, while many people said that they would be unsuccessful with their ID electric cars in China, their sales have grown every single month for about 6 straight months. Not to say they're selling a lot of them, but last month they sold 14,000 ID models in China. That's pretty good. Now, Volkswagen has previously disclosed that it delivered 122,100 electric vehicles worldwide during the third quarter of this year, which is a 110% increase over the same period in 2020. And that's pretty good. It's not as good as I think it could be if they had focused more on them, which they should have, but it's still pretty good. Now, automakers are picking and choosing which models they allocate their limited supply of components to, and it's good that Volkswagen have given EVs priority over ICE vehicles in the past. They could easily have used the chip shortage to stall EV production. That's a positive way of spinning what is really going on, and that is Volkswagen doesn't want to pay fines for polluting, which is what everyone has to do. If they produce a certain amount of CO2 per car, if it's above a certain number, they have to pay fines. And Volkswagen in the past has paid Tesla hundreds of millions of dollars in order to avoid paying hundreds of millions more than that in fines. And that is exactly what Volkswagen, well, every other European automaker is doing right now by prioritizing electric car manufacturing. That's what it comes down to, wanting to avoid fines and getting the most profit per vehicle. I know this sounds cynical, but realistically, this is what it comes down to for big companies. Dollars talk, money talks, revenue talks. That is why they prioritize them. So clearly, they're at a point now in which they just have no choice. They just really don't have enough for their entire car lineup, so they're having to pause production of their electric vehicles. So, while this is bad, the good news is that Volkswagen have just started pre-production, whatever that means, of the ID.4 in another German plant, which is in Emden, which will ramp up during next year. This and the Chattanooga plant should help with the large demand for the Volkswagen ID.4, which is currently only produced in Zwickau in the west of Germany. Later, this plant will also make the announced Volkswagen ID wagon. So that's great news. Now, Vlad has made a comment on an article about this topic on electric.co, and Vlad has said, this is why it's better to invest in companies like Rivian who don't produce anything at all. Rivian has now a higher valuation than Volkswagen, so I doubled my investment. Money lies on the streets. Yes, well, Rivian is currently the third most valuable car company in the world. And that is frankly insane. If you put your money in there, well, you're gambling with that money. And that is really a fact. Now, if you want to invest in the electric revolution, great companies still exist where you can invest money where it makes sense to do so. Who are those? Well, BYD, CATL, even NIO and Xpeng are fairly valued in comparison to companies like Lucid and Rivian. I'm not saying I'm pro-China or anything like that. I'm just saying I recommend If you want to invest in the EV revolution, which I think is a great idea, do it in a company where you're not playing Russian roulette. Thanks for watching the channel. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about chip shortage with Volkswagen. Why are they going through this issue when other car companies are not? In fact, when no one in China right now is having this problem. In fact, the Chinese government and Chinese car companies have said the chip shortage is finished in China, that they're doing fine. So why is this happening to Volkswagen and still Toyota too? Let me know what you think, or if you have inside information, let us all know. Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.